Welcome to Arts Roll Call, a podcast showcasing artists and arts organizations, highlighting the role of the arts today in Greater Lansing. I'm Robin Miner-Swartz, and I'm an editor, communications consultant, and lifelong arts advocate. And today I'm talking with Shawn Turner, the interim general manager and director of broadcasting at WKAR Public Media. Shawn is also a professor in MSU's Department of Communication, and he is an on-air national security analyst for CNN. Earlier in his career, Shawn spent 21 years in the Marine Corps and 5 years as a senior executive with the federal government. Hi, Shawn. Welcome to Arts Roll Call. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Hi, Robin. Thank you. It's great to be with you.
Well, you've come at a really exciting time for WKAR. The station has just celebrated its 100th anniversary in August, and you kicked off the year-long Century of Service celebration. Can you tell us a little bit about the Century of Service and what the community can expect to see in the coming year?
Sure, absolutely. Well, as you pointed out, WKAR is about to celebrate its 100th anniversary, and we're really excited about what we've got coming up over the next year. We're going to be spending a lot of time out in the community, engaging with the community, talking about all the things that have brought us from where we were to where we are today, and hearing from the community about what we're doing well and what we can do better as we look forward to the next 100 years. So coming up on August 18th, we've got a big celebration where we're going to bring people in to get us kicked off. And then on the 20th of August, we're going to have a community open house where I want to invite everyone to come out and spend some time talking with WKAR and getting to know our team here. But beyond that, for the entire year, we're going to have a lot of events where we really want to reconnect with the community and talk a lot about how WKAR has been a part of this community for the past 100 years.
Well, when we think of creativity, often our thoughts go right to the arts, obviously, but creativity really comes in a whole lot of forms, including the creativity it took to just dream up the technology that got WKAR on the air 100 years ago. Can you talk a little bit about the soldiers who came back to campus after World War I and how they helped create what became WKAR?
Yeah, anytime you have an organization that's been around for 100 years, you can't help but to want to reflect on what it was that allowed that organization to get started and to persist. I have been fascinated to learn the origins of WKAR, and it's really a great story. You think back to, or look back to over 100 years ago, when, as you said, we had soldiers returning from World War One, and around 1917, they were really interested in tinkering with some of the wireless transmission equipment that they had come into contact with overseas. And you had a situation where, as the story goes, you had students here on campus at MSU, and they believed that they were communicating with each other inside a building here on campus. But in reality, they were actually broadcasting a signal that went out about 15 miles here in the East Lansing area. Now, Robin, that might be a great end to the story of how this all started, but it's not. As I noted, these were young people who were coming back from the war, and because they thought they were talking to themselves, to each other inside this building, the dialogue was, let's just say, it was somewhat irreverent. And as a result of that dialogue that, as I said, was broadcast out over 15 miles, there were people in the community who heard that, and certainly let the university, or let the college at the time, know that they heard those things. That could have ended this great experiment if it were not for the fact that there were visionaries here at what was then Michigan College. There were people here who recognized that we had something here that could potentially serve the community. We had something that had real potential to give the community something that was lacking. And in 1922, as folks may be aware, we went on the air broadcasting over an AM station, agricultural information that served the community. So really interesting start to WKAR. And what I really love about the story is that if it had not been for those visionaries here, it all may have never happened.
And also, students have always just been students, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly, yeah.
That's great. Well, there are so many ways that WKAR is educating and informing and inspiring audiences through programming on radio and television for the past 100 years. But I'd love for us to talk a little bit about the importance of the arts to WKAR's mission. When did the arts and culture become part of WKAR's programming, and what did that look like in the beginning, in addition to the farming programming that was being offered?
Yeah, I think the arts have been a part of who we are right from the very beginning. As I mentioned before, we started out broadcasting that agricultural information in 1922, but in the decade that followed, the programming became more varied. And we go back and we look back to the mid 1930s, it was very common to see programming like Saturday symphonies, concerts by the Michigan High School Orchestra. There was even a program called Musical Memories that were all part of a lineup in the 1930s. And of course, you fast forward to the 1960s, WKAR FM began airing classical music, and that remains our format today. So I think if you look at our history, we've all throughout our history, there were times when we focused on the arts, and at every turn, as we were doing that, as I mentioned earlier, we were listening to the community and understanding what the community was interested in, and that's just been a part of who we are right from the very start.
Well, and it's nice to hear you talk about even the high school orchestras performing on there, because I think we sort of take for granted today how easy it is for people to broadcast their own concerts and to have access to all of these kinds of platforms where they can have performances. But it really must have been a big deal to be able to see and listen to the local high school and even just local symphonies performing right in your own home. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think it was, and what I love about that is this is about the community. So this is sitting down on a Saturday afternoon with people who and being able to turn on the radio and to hear students who are part of this community, young people who are part of this community. I think that really meant something to the people here, and it's a formula that we continue to employ today. Look, as I've said previously, this is a community station, and it's our job to be responsive to the community. And this community loves the arts, and so WKAR is proud to continue to be a part of that.
Well, I think sometimes when people hear the arts also, they think sometimes it's something with a pricey ticket or it's a
Mhm.
fancy experience that's out of reach for them. So can you talk a little bit about how WKAR's arts programming has made these cultural experiences more accessible to Mid-Michigan's community?
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point because there are instances in which engaging with the arts there is a pricey ticket or fancy experience, but it doesn't have to be that way. And here at WKR, we take pride in the fact that it's not that way. I think there have been two key factors that sort of drive our thinking with regard to accessibility. The first is that as I mentioned, we never forget that we're a community station. We exist to inform, educate, and inspire our viewers and listeners. That means that we have to listen to the community and understand what they want. And I think that what this allows us to do is it gives us the ability to create programming and engagement opportunities around the cultural experiences that matter to our community. And I think that's a really important part of why we've existed as long as we have. The second way that I think we focus on accessibility is through our partnerships and collaborations. This is key to how we do our business. In fact, I recently sat down with the leaders of the Broad Art Museum and Wharton Center for the Performing Arts to just have a conversation about how we can work together to better serve our community from an arts perspective. And what I loved about that conversation and that engagement and the talk about a partnership is that we're all focused on bringing the arts to those people who don't often have access to the arts because of what you started with at the beginning, that pricey ticket or that fancy experience. And so we think that by working with community organizations, by working with others in the arts here in the greater Lansing and Mid-Michigan area, that we can open the doors to arts in ways that just aren't typically there for some of the people in our community.
Absolutely. So, S as part of Century Service Celebration, WKAR has partnered with the Arts Council of Greater Lansing to create a mural that will
Mhm.
commemorate the station's first 100 years. So, can you tell me a little bit about the inspiration for that project?
Sure, absolutely. Well, it was originally Susie Elkins, who was the previous general manager here at WKAR. She had a vision for a mural that would send a strong message to the community that WKAR not only appreciates the community involvement, the community engagement that have allowed us to exist for 100 years, but also a place for the community to come and to engage with WKAR. So this mural, the idea behind this mural is it's really a way of saying thank you to the community. It's a way of saying to the community that we are here for you and that we are focused on the arts in a way that serves our viewers and listeners and what they're interested in. What I love about this idea is that the mural will be in a place here at our station here at WKAR where we don't get a lot of traffic from the community. And we talk a lot about that. And if we're going to be an active member of the arts in this community the way we've been in the past, we have to open up our studios here at the community. We have to bring the community in. We have to let them see who we are and what we do and how we do it. And so we made a conscious decision to put this mural in our spaces here at WKAR in a studio space that where we don't typically have members of the community, but that's going to push us to bring members of the community in, to get them more involved in what we do here at the station, and to show them how much we appreciate their support over the years.
I love hearing that because I'm from the olden days of WKAR when we had the auction at Com Arts, and there were so many people inside the building for that, but it was really kind of the only opportunity to have crowds like that. So it's exciting to hear that there will be ways for the community to come in and see more, not just of the mural itself when it's done, but of the operation over there, which is just so vast and impressive.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Robin, what I hope we get out of that experience is an opportunity to hear more from the community about how we can better serve. One of the things I've been doing in my time here as interim general manager is going back and looking at the various programs that we've had on the air over the years, everything from our current offerings of Off the Record and Curious Crew, going all the way back to Quizbusters and shows well before that. And one of the things that I'm focused on, and I know the entire team is focused on, is what the future looks like in terms of that program, and especially particularly as it relates to the arts. Having the community in our space and having the community engage in conversations with us and tell us what matters to them is really going to help us develop the programming and the work in the arts space that will matter to this community.
That's exciting. So, will there be an opportunity for local artists to maybe have a way to participate in this process?
Yeah, and I'm glad you raised that because we really are thrilled to have the opportunity to work with local artists to create this mural. As I said, this is going to be the essence of our relationship with the community here at WKR. And what I hope more than anything, and we've had this idea here, I hope that people will follow along with us as we watch this mural come into existence. We're going to get inquiries in soon. We're going to identify a local artist to create the mural, and then there's that process that unfolds. And we think it would be really great to highlight that process and let people see this mural, and not only as it's being created, but to talk about what it means to us and why we're doing this throughout that process.
That's great. Well, we've been talking a lot about the past 100 years. What does the future look like for WKAR and for our greater arts community with that?
Yeah, it's exciting. We are at a point in public media where we are needing to make changes in order to make sure that we are reaching our audiences where they are. So when we think about the future and we think about it through, and we think about our work with our arts partners across the spectrum, what we see are additional opportunities for people to engage with our content on different platforms. We see partnerships where you may go to the museum, but during your experience at the museum, you're going to learn about opportunities to engage with WKAR, or you'll turn on the television and you'll learn about opportunities to engage with the Wharton Center for the Performing Arts or with the museum or others in the community. We're going to work together in the future to make sure that when people think about the arts, they're not just thinking about one of the organizations here in the community, but they're thinking about this area and the work that we're doing as sort of an arts hub. I can envision a world where working together with those in the community who we've talked to over the past several weeks and months, where we have more people coming in from around Michigan and around the country to experience the arts offerings that we have here in Mid Michigan and right here at WKAR. So I think the future looks bright from that perspective. We are going to try to do some innovative things, and we're going to look to others around the country to see what they're doing, so that people here in Mid Michigan and the Greater Lansing area can look to seeing more arts and to having more experiences available to them through WKAR.
It's going to be an exciting year.
Yes.
Shawn, what did the arts mean to you growing up?
That's a great question. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I will tell you that my experience there was one that, when it came to the world outside of Cincinnati, was an experience through the arts. It was an experience through public broadcasting there. For me, the arts really opened my eyes to the world. I lived in a place that, even though today people think of Cincinnati as a big city, I lived in a small area there, and if it were not for my ability to turn on the local public broadcasting station, to turn on the local public radio station, or to go to museums and to walk through museums and to see things that I'd never seen before, and to learn stories that I'd never learned before. If it were not for my ability to do that, I don't know that I would have ever had the inspiration that I needed to leave Cincinnati and to go out and to do things in the world, do things in the world that I'm doing today. So for me, the arts, I just can't tell you how critical they were to my understanding that there's something bigger out there. And I think it's also important to note that the arts were critical to my education growing up as well. It wasn't just about going to the museum and seeing a beautiful painting on the wall, or turning on the radio and listening to the music history uh, uh, program that I listened to. It was also about learning about history through the arts.
Mhm.
And so when I think about what we can do here at WKAR and what we can do as an arts community, I know that these things matter to young people out there who were like me, may not have access to these things by virtue of getting on an airplane and going to see them, or by virtue of paying that price for a concert or what have you. So I think this is really important, not just for our community, but for young people in our community who need to know that there's a bigger world out there that they should experience.
Well, and it really, I mean, I know we all love a round number celebration, but I mean, truly, with WKAR turning 100, Wharton Center turning 40, the Broad turning 10, it feels like just the perfect convergence of everything to be able to celebrate the arts and arts education in our community this year.
Yeah, I think it is, and I think that we recognize that opportunity early on, and I think this is going to be something really exciting for this community. If people have not had the opportunity to get over to Broad or to go to Wharton lately, I can tell you that when you talk to the teams there, when I've talked to the teams, I've talked to the leadership, they also have this sense of excitement about the future. They're excited about working together. They're excited about what it means to have new leadership and fresh energy in our push to really bring the arts to life here in the greater Lansing area. And there are others out there who have been doing this for a long time, and to some degree, we're sort of getting on board. But I think that this idea that we work together and that we create something that draws people in, and create something that educates and inspires people, I think there's just an electricity about it right now, and I'm just really excited to be a part of it.
It is exciting. Shawn, as you may know, the Arts Roll Call podcast serves as kind of a time capsule for artists and arts and cultural organizations who are members of the Arts Council. And in honor of WKAR's partnership with them on this community mural project, the Arts Council is presenting WKAR with a complimentary one-year membership, and they want you to know how excited they are to be working on this project with you and your team. I think it's just a really logical partnership, and it's been fun to watch this evolve.
Well, that's fantastic news, and I can tell you that we really appreciate that. And the team here at WKAR will definitely be taking advantage of that membership. It's an exciting partnership, and we can't say enough good things about the great work that the Arts Council does here. So we appreciate that, and we look forward to continuing this partnership.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with the podcast listeners and viewers about WKAR's Century of Service celebration, things they should look for in the coming year?
Sure, and thanks for the opportunity. Let me just say that as I talk to the team here about our Century of Service and what it means for us here at WKR over the next year, I repeatedly hear the team talk about not what this means for us, but what this means for the community. And I think what I want your listeners to know is that we are thinking about this in terms of what we can do to show the community how much we appreciate you. For us, a century of service really is about saying thank you, because we know that we would not be here if it were not for the support of our listeners, our viewers, our donors, and others in the community. So, what I think that what people should do is really stay in touch with us. Make sure that you're looking at our website, that you're checking in with us about all the events that we're going to have coming up to get out into the community to talk about the future of WKAR. We've got some exciting things here. We're going to be working on some new content that I think people are going to be really excited about, because we've been out in the community asking people, what do you want to see more of? What do you want to learn about? So we're developing some content based on that feedback. We're beefing up our news team, so we're going to be able to provide more to the community in the way of clear, concise, factual news. As everyone knows, our classical radio station is on the air, and we've got great talent here that continues to provide that service for the community. So we're going to continue to do all the things that we've done in the past, but we're also going to work on making sure that we are meeting our viewers and listeners where they are, getting them new content in ways that really matter to them. So stay in touch with us. Tell us what we're doing well. Tell us what we can do better. And you have my commitment that we will continue to be a vibrant and consistent part of this community.
Well, you mentioned the website. Let's put that back up there again, where folks can learn more about WKAR. And I know you've also got a nice Facebook presence too for the whole public media organization.
Yes, we do.
That's great, and it's going to be fun to follow along for this whole year. I mean, it's been a whole lot of service to the community, as you said, but it's exciting that people can now think about how they're part of WKAR's story moving forward too, I think.
Absolutely. I think WKAR story is the story of this community. And we're going to continue to make sure that as we tell that story, that we're not just focusing on ourselves, but we're going to focus on what this community has meant to WKAR as well.
Well, Shawn, congratulations on your role, on the celebration, on the 100 years, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Thank you, Robin. It was my pleasure.
This podcast has been a production of the Arts Council of Greater Lansing. To learn more about them, go to lansingarts.org.